Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome to this overview of the Sorcery Pack DLC for Planet Coaster 2. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the scenery and the new mascots. This DLC also comes with 5 rides and comes alongside a free update that adds awesome new features like challenge mode. But we'll be focusing on the scenery in this video. To start off with, there is a new mascot. Their name is Vesper and it comes in both a masculine version and a feminine version. They both look awesome, they're nice and big. I don't necessarily know if they are obviously on stilts, similar to how Captain Lockjaw worked in the original game. I think they've just maybe oversized them a little bit so they stand out in crowds. That's fine by me. They have fantastic animations and voice acting, and I think they're going to be a great addition to any fantastical park. Before we get into the building sets proper, we always start with the path interactive stuff, and there's not too much here. There's no new path textures per se with the Sorcery DLC, although it does come alongside Update 7, which includes recolorable paths, so technically we do now have a lot more textures to play with. This brick, for instance, that's usually very orangey now can be made into quite a nice dull grey. I'll be using this one a lot. On those paths you can place down new picnic benches and new regular benches and new trash cans. I've also placed here the fence piece and the lamppost. Even though they're not necessarily attached to paths, they usually end up on paths, so I thought I would put them down. You'll also notice I've Medusa'd a lot of guests around the place so you can have an idea of the scale. Quite like these. They've definitely got a bit of a sorcery vibe, but I still feel like they're tipping towards generic, that you could probably use them in other places as well. Anywhere where there's real sort of color changes or size changes, I've tried to put a couple down so you can see. So you can just show that, you know, going for more of a bluish wood here, or, you know, going really crazy with blue and gold here. The metal texture looks fantastic in sort of silvery textures or gold textures. It also looks really good as like an iron as well. They've done a really good job there making the texture work for lots of different colors. And the same with these. These are maybe a little bit more stylized than I would like, but you know, overall I don't think they're terrible. They're not the most offensive that we've had in packs so far. And then there's this light structure here, lamppost, and then it's also broken down into basically it's every single piece of this is separate. There's also a few extra pieces here that work independently as light fittings as well. These are all gorgeous. They've got a real good little wrought iron look, but again, you can recolor these with like a nice sort of warm brown, and they act really well as copper as well. I just love seeing all these. I think these two pieces here especially are going to be really, really useful. There's another light piece I'm going to show you in a moment that is probably the goat of the pack. Next up, I would normally cover nature. There isn't really much here in this pack for nature, although they do list both these gem clusters and these stones, these rocks. So there are more gems coming up, but the ones coming up are all sort of harnessed in metal. These are the naturally occurring ones. These are actually really great colorability. There's 3 different color options here, 2 for the stones and 1 for the gems themselves. They also give off a nice bit of light at nighttime. There's also some nice giant causeway style rocks. There's only 3 of them, but between scenery, scaling and recolorability, I actually think you can get quite a lot of use out of these. And then there are 4 new special effects. There are 2 different types of magical smoke. There is a little explosion, and then there is a more of a solid magical orb looking thing. Again, all recolorable, and the nice thing about these is that the smoke ones there can be recolored to a grey, and it actually works in night. You can see the smoke at night time, which is a nice addition, whereas the smoke that we have currently in the game is actually really quite hard to see in dark. Here you can see what those look like at night time. That one on the right is very cool. I don't really know necessarily what I'll use it for, but it's a real nice effect, and the same with the gems. They give off a real nice luminescence at night time. Moving on to the meat and potatoes of the set, then there are 2 new building sets. They are both stone sets, with one of them having a lot of wooden trim. The first one is called the Keep set and is definitely the more fleshed out of the 2. It's going to be used for making awesome castles and keeps. I've laid everything out here. There's not really much to say about most of it. You know, walls and arches as you would expect in all of them. Floor pieces the same. Nice to see both sides of the curve here, so you can have a nice round piece with the bricks going all the same way. They don't always do that, so that's good to see. The thing that really makes this set shine personally is all of the additional non-gridded pieces, like these buttresses here. All of these, by the way, these aren't 2 pieces. I've just put a second one in and scaled it so you can get a bit of an idea of the variation. The scalability on these is going to be very useful. Obviously, it does scale the brick texture, so there is something to be said about having the bricks look a little different sizes throughout, but for the most part, I actually think it's very useful that a lot of this is scalable. Remember, you can now rotate the grid pieces on 3 axes, so you can actually have crooked walls and what have you, even if they're a gritty piece, but they still don't scale. So all of the non-gritty pieces that you're seeing here are scalable, including all of these beautiful buttress pieces. There's some really nice stuff. There's some nice flying buttress pieces here that are going to be awesome for both interior and exterior use. There's some really great spires that are, you know, a little spooky looking, but for the most part still generic enough with some color changes. I think you can actually have these look a little bit deco. Yeah, I think these are really great pieces to be coming into the game. There's a few little bit more specific stone pieces here, such as this trelage here. This one, and then roof pieces that go with it. I haven't placed all of the roof pieces here. You know, imagine that there's the 1, 2, 4 meter of each of these. They all sort of go together, and then onto all of these walls there are a handful of doors and windows in this set. There's definitely more in the other. These are all pretty big, but again, scalable. This one actually works quite nicely if you scale it down. The windows, I would like to have seen these ones as separate. It's a set of 3, and I'd like to always see the windows with a clear version as well. That would be something I'd love to see as we move forward. They all have this sort of like shiny fake window. It'd be great to see a see-through version of these as well. So if you wanted to spend the time sort of sinking them into a wall and actually have them see-through, that'd be a real nice touch, I think. But with those, here's a couple of the blueprints that the game provides with you, so you can see how a lot of that clicks together. This round piece with the buttresses on it, I think looks fantastic. We're going to get some really interesting roof designs, and obviously this is leaning itself towards castles and keeps, but you know, there's a lot of little bits here that you're going to be able to use and get a lot of value out of in other builds as well, just as like a nice foundation. This is a really great brick texture, and again, all of this is very customizable with color as well. The other set is a more classic brick set and isn't quite as fleshed out as the other one as far as non-gritty pieces go, but you do have everything you would expect to find on the grid pieces. Again, these are nicely recolorable as well, so you aren't stuck with that sort of orangey colour that they are here. They come with some nice chimney pieces. They're a little big, perhaps. The smallest scale here is probably where you would want them for the most part, I think. But you know, for oversized builds, you're going to have some fun with those. And then the real sort of standouts on this set for me personally are these really nice gable pieces that we've got here in both different slope of roof. I think this is going to be really useful for lots of different styles. Obviously they are here as like a Diagon Alley, Hogsmeade type set, but I actually think this is quite useful for a lot of different styles. The walls and doors are a bit more fleshed out here. There are 4 different doors and 4 different windows. This is 3 of them. I placed them down one by one, and these are nice generic windows. We like to see this sort of stuff, very useful in lots of different places. This is very similar to a piece that was in the first game that was see-through, that actually had real glass. Again, just would love to see a glass option on all of the windows, and it's not something we've necessarily had before, but I think now with the focus on interiors in this game with gift shops and restaurants, I think these would be a lot more useful if there was a second version that had glass in them as well, something I would really like to see moving forward. And with these you can do some stuff. For everyone who's saying this isn't a spooky pack, I don't know, you can do some pretty spooky stuff with this, with spiders and cobwebs that we're going to look at in a moment. Yes, I would like to see some spooky stuff, which we'll talk about in a moment, but here's a few other examples. No, I've not built these. These are the scenery pieces that come with the game, the blueprints that come with the game. If you would like to see what I've done with this, there's going to be another video on the channel at the same time as this one that is a Symbolica style Omnimover that I'm working on for my big park in Meanderville that obviously uses all of the scenery in the game. I don't tie myself to single themes, but I've tried to use more of this, partly because it's fun to use the new stuff, and partly I want to sort of use it as a way to learn the pieces. So you can check out, once you've finished here, perhaps go and watch that one to see how some of this works sort of in real life, I guess. Alright, moving outside of the building sets then into the more generic scenery, there is an awning and window piece for each of the sets. They're a bit niche, but generic enough perhaps. Yeah, they're a bit of a weird one though. Right, next up then, we got some good stuff. These, first of all, are a set of pots, sort of potion jars, I suppose. These are really quite great. There are 5 different sizes, 5 different shapes. So here they are in their base size, and then the smallest they'll go without mods. So a lot of these are quite useful size-wise, I think, compared to the guests there. They're all obviously recolorable, and they actually also act as lights. Here you can see them at night time. They have a real nice luminescence about them. I would have liked the option to just turn the light off completely, although that isn't in the game currently, unfortunately. But here I've put 2 down and just made them darker colors, and you can see that basically gets rid of the lighting option. But as you'll see in that Symbolica video I was talking about, these just create a real nice ambiance in a space if you're looking for some sort of magical vibe. It also comes with this iron wall piece as well that is designed to hold them. It's called like potion holder, but it'll actually hold quite a few different lights, and overall is quite a nice sort of generic option. I'll actually show the next few things off in nighttime as well. There are a set of candles, 3 of them to be exact. I would really just love to see one single plain candle that I can do what I like with. These are a little too stylized for my taste overall. Obviously they're great for a sorcery pack, but a single candle I'd be able to use a lot in lots of different areas. I have here tried to sort of generically size them a little bit, so giving them more of a natural color, shrunk them down and hidden them a little bit to cut off that base piece. And whilst they're definitely usable like this, I would still love just a real generic candle like the one that's on the dynamite piece, or the one that's on the candelabra just on its own. It's a shame that we constantly have to sink things into the ground for candles. It'd be really nice to have single candles that we could make our own candelabras out of. Saying that though, these are still quite nice additions. I don't hate them. I just would love to see a more generic one. There's a few different cauldron pieces as well. Some of them are animated, some of them are not. Here's some runic floors. These have quite nice little animations on them, nice little glows on them. There's 2 different ones, and then this one is just sort of resized and recolored to show you what you can do with them. And then here's the rest of those crystals that don't class as nature, mostly because they're sort of farmed out of the ground already, I guess, with these claws. There's a regular stand-up one. This one is designed to sit onto walls, and then there's one with nothing as well. Love this sort of stuff. Really useful, nice and generic. Obviously, you know, definitely giving sorcery vibes, but if you wanted to do like a mine with, you know, like a 7 Dwarfs mine, something like that, that'll work really well for. I actually have an idea for a mine coaster in my Arabian area of a theme park, and all of this sort of stuff is going to come in super handy for that. There's a few new pieces of chain which are always incredibly welcome, especially ones that go relatively small like this and plain. These are designed to go with the signs and with the lights, but you know, it's just a piece of chain that will work really nicely. I genuinely thought this guy was eating a mouse for a second. It's just a drippy burger. Next up, there is a full sort of ollery, I think they call these. Here it is on its own. It can go quite big and it can go quite small, and it then comes with these additional pieces as well to make a sort of nice piece of statue. Love this sort of stuff, honestly. Would even like to have seen a few more options with this. The set is a little animatronic light, in my opinion, and this is the kind of thing that I would really like. Now, obviously, you can do more using the rotating motion pieces and adding lights to them yourself. That is something I've done in the build I was telling you about before to sort of complement this. But these kind of things, I think, are really good additions, and I'd like to see more of this kind of stuff. The absolute standout of this is the light can be put down on its own. It goes incredibly small and it's incredibly plain, and right there you go. That's worth the price of the pack, in my opinion. A single plain bulb, superb. As far as the rest of animatronics go, there is a spider that it comes as a single piece altogether, having a potter about, and then his head, body, and legs come separately, giving us perhaps the most uncomfortable piece in the game. The jiggle, just this thing just jiggling on its own makes me feel a little ill. There's also an egg sack that goes with it, not necessarily an animatronic, but it does have a effect on there. There is a set of spider webs that go with it as well. These can go relatively small. I would prefer the more realistic looking spider webs from Spooky Pack, honestly. These are a little bit too stylized for my liking. There's also not a flat one as well, which is a shame, because when I saw these teased on the website, I thought, well, these might not work necessarily well for spider webs, webs, but if you make these a nice gold color, you can actually maybe make some cool sort of like Gaudi style ironwork, you know, but there's not a single flat one, so it's going to be difficult to build sort of gates and stuff out of this kind of thing. Yeah, would like to see more wispy spider webs, please. And then the rest of the animatronics are made up with these 3 wizards. There is a male, a female, and a hooded, and in between these they all have about 8 or 9 animations, I believe. I haven't put them all down, but here's a handful of them, so whilst there isn't like 50 of these listed in the menu, the new system for Planet Coaster 2 is much better. You choose one of these, you can colorize it, you know, change the hair color, the robes color, and then you can go in and choose the animation they do. There's sort of 3 or 4 attacking ones, 3 or 4 idle ones, and 3 or 4 defending ones, and between them there's going to be a good sort of wizard battle there, and the what are these called? The idle ones, I guess, will work quite well if you want to do like classroom type stuff as well. I think would be pretty good. So overall, these are neat. They're obviously quite specific to the Sorcery pack. You're not going to get much use out of these elsewhere, but you know they're fine. Some of the good stuff then, there is a selection of statues, both for the wall and standalone ones. These are all the wall ones. Interesting choices here. There's frogs and cats. I suppose they've tried to make it not necessarily too spooky. There is still spiders, and this is a grotesque or a gargoyle if water's coming out of it, I suppose. There's also a male and female wizard. The nice thing about this is they've given us a few faces as well. And what you can actually do, if I come in here, is these faces sit fairly nicely over these, so between the faces and the heads you can actually get quite a few different versions of these, which is kind of neat. There's some nice plain backing pieces. These are sort of designed to sit well with these, but these will work well in lots of different areas. I can see these being very useful. There's another little sort of gargoyle there, and there's some new wood pieces as well with nice worn wood. Just the 2 sizes of flat one and round one, and then this single piece here that again would be nice if it was broken down into more of its components, but overall, you know, I'll always take new wood pieces. They're always very useful. And then the standalone statues, then there's this 13 style hooded guy, and the those faces that we just saw before, the single faces there, they fit very nicely into that hood if you want to do that, but also you could fit maybe like a light or a special effect in there as well. There's a little plinth here that I think is actually called like gem plinth, but just a nice sort of generic plinth. There's a big spider that actually can also be a little tiny spider. There's some cats, a griffin, and he's just and a super spooky guy in sunglasses. Signage then, there's some nice signs in the game. There's a few of these sort of sticky out pieces. This, I was really excited that this was a book. It's not, it's a big book sign. I've had to do some clever sort of hiding to make this look like a book in a library scene that I'm working on. I would please give us some books, Planco, please. These are nice though, super generic. These will work in lots of different areas, colorable, scalable. This is quite a nice piece as well. There's a few sort of standalone ones that are pretty neat, and then a couple slightly more themed ones here. You know, a couple of these sort of things is fine. I'll take a big themed sign that also comes with 2 of these, you know, because like, yes, it's nice to have some real overly themed stuff if you're making a you know, sort of real sort of highly themed park area, but this sort of stuff will always be incredibly welcome. So a mix of both, which I think this pack has kind of nailed, is really great. And then last but by no means least, there's a big set of sort of tree pieces, branches, trunks, driftwood, call it what you like. There's a lot of these smaller flat pieces that I think are going to be very useful, and then all of these sort of component pieces. Some of them just look like generic twigs, which I think is great. Some of them have got these sort of more spooky faces on. The idea is that it's a set of that you can make these sort of treants, basically. But overall, I think these are good. These are going to be useful for just general old trees or like swampy places, or you can sort of dial up the fantasy and go for these heads and you know, build these kind of things, or even add some of these heads maybe into regular trees so you get the sort of classic talking tree motif that you see in a lot of theme parks. Interestingly of note, these have the global texture like the rocks, which means they should scale quite nicely without losing too much definition, which I think is a really great idea. To be honest with you, they could use this all across the place, and I think it would be fine. I assume maybe this is a little bit more sort of intensive. I don't know. I'm not a game dev. So there you go. There is your overview of the scenery and other bits of the Sorcery pack out now for Planet Coaster 2. Overall, I think this is like a solid sort of 7 or 8 out of 10. I think a slight change in the ride roster. I would really have loved to seen another dark ride in the set. Something like a Vekoma Madhouse or something like that would have been like real top tier stuff. And I would love to have seen just a handful of more traditional Halloween pieces to go alongside this stuff. You know, 4 or 5 pumpkins, a handful of bones, a couple of books, that kind of thing. You know, October is still a month away, or the end of October at least is still a month away at this point. We could see a little free update. I mean, that I know nothing. I have no idea what's coming, but I would love to see some more traditional Halloween pieces that would really flesh this out. But overall, I think this is a great pack. The rides are fantastic. The scenery is, for the most part, very usable. It does suffer a little bit from that slightly, it's all a bit too big Planko size, but you know, that's just part of the design of the game. We deal with it if we prefer to build a little bit more of a realistic scale. But overall, they've got a real nice mix of overly themed stuff and generic stuff. I think there's going to be stuff in here for any detailer, and obviously, you know, there's going to be people who just straight up want to build Hogsmeade, Diagon Alley, the Hagrid's roller coaster, all that sort of stuff. As I said before, if you want to see this in real life, in an actual build, you can head over and check out the first part of Astrolore, which is my Symbolica style Omnimover ride in my main park, Meanderville, that's going to be using a lot of this stuff. Thanks for watching, love you all to bits, until the next one, be good.